Okay, we're recording. Let's see. Again, I'm trying to drag my feet a little bit because, like I said, I was expecting at least one other person, but we might have to go on without them. Now that we're recording, I'll go ahead and say too, for anybody who's watching this video as opposed to joining us um, late, or excuse me, anybody who's watching the video as opposed to joining us live, what I'm going to do is give some keywords. So if you're watching the video, so not you four because you're here right now, but if you're watching the video as opposed to joining live, and you want proof that you want to send proof that you watched the video, you're going to send an email when you're done, and you're going to send a list of keywords, and the first keyword is going to be cup, like something you drink out of. So send the word cup along with the other words that I'm going to mention throughout this discussion. And that's it. So for those of you who are here, do you have any specific questions about um, the first discussion before we get started? All right. Well, let me pull it up first of all, so we can see it on the screen while I'm talking about it. Where are we at? No. There we go. Okay. So the most basic thing to say about this discussion, right? Like, so the question is, should we continue to use coal? Basically, is what I'm asking, right? That's the question you're going to answer. And I guess a better way of writing it, and I think I might even change it now that I'm thinking about it, instead of saying should we, I think the answer or the question should say, is it the right thing to do to continue to use coal? And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, there is no right answer. So whether you say it is right to continue to use coal or it is not right to continue to use coal, that does not matter. That's not really the question. The purpose of this discussion is actually for you to demonstrate that you understand these ethical points of view. So again, virtue ethics versus consequence-based ethics versus utilitarianism versus duty-based ethics. And you can find those on page 38 of your textbook. And I've also pulled them up here, the basic definition on the PowerPoint slides that you guys also have. So for example, the difference between virtue ethics, consequence-based ethics, and duty-based ethics, you're going to say, is it right or wrong to burn coal? And you're going to choose one of these, at least one of these, to back yourself up, right? And again, the point of this discussion is really to demonstrate that you understand at least one of these ethical points of view. So, for example, let's say this was, I don't know, some sort of criminal justice class, and it wasn't environmental biology. And let's say the question was, all right, here's the scenario. Some young guy broke into an old lady's house with the intention of robbing her, stealing all of her, I don't know, pain medications so he could sell them and make some money. Those were his intentions. He snuck into the house with the intention of doing that. But then as he turned the corner, there she is laying on the ground unconscious. He sees this. Um, he helps her. He anonymously calls 911 from her cell phone, and it saves her life, right? So by virtue ethics, you would say this person has done the right thing, or excuse me, I got that backwards. That's right. By virtue ethics, this person had not done the right thing because virtue ethics is all about, what were the intentions? And his intentions were not good, right? His intentions were to rob the lady. So by virtue ethics, he did the wrong thing. By consequence-based ethics, one could argue that he did the right thing because of the outcomes, right? So yes, his intentions were were to steal the medications, but he didn't steal them, and he ended up saving her life, right? So by consequence-based ethics, one could argue that that he did the right thing. And then by duty-based ethics, this one's really basic. It's just, is it illegal or not? So if you're in a state where, and I'm sure you are, or it's illegal to break into someone's house and it's illegal to steal someone's medication, then it doesn't matter if he saved her life. By duty-based ethics, he did the wrong thing. So does that make sense to everybody? Do you guys understand the basic differences between these ethical points of view? Or does anybody not understand the differences?
I understand for sure.
Okay.
I'm good.
Good. So again, when you say, should we, is burning coal good or not? That's, you're going to choose at least one of those, and you're going to, back up your statement using that. And to be honest, I don't care whether you say it's good or bad, as far as I'm concerned, you could point out the good and the bad and use, whichever ethical point of view and do both. You don't have to stick with one. Um, and then on your reply, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to say, you're going to agree with somebody or disagree with them, except when you're replying to whichever person you're are replying to, it's going to be from a different set of ethical points of view. So for your two replies, you're going to be basing them on anthropocentric ethics, biocentric ethics, or ecocentric ethics. And basically, that's what we're saying here is you're going to be looking at things from the point of view of humans. Like, all right, does it help humans or does it hurt humans? Because if it's anthropocentric ethics, that's all that matters, right? Everything else doesn't matter. If you're looking at biocentric ethics, then you're looking at like every living thing, right? So is it helping? Is it, helping more of every living thing, or is it hurting more of every little thing? Um, and then there's ecocentric ethics, and this is a little bit hard because the course just started today, and you guys have a lot of reading to do. But when you're looking at ecocentric ethics, then you're looking at the whole ecosystem. So you're not just looking at like all living things individually, like that every living thing has intrinsic value, and we should protect it. In this case, ecocentric ethics, you're looking at a bigger picture. So, for example, one might argue, by biocentric ethics, that hunting deer is a bad thing because you're killing an individual living creature, and every individual living creature has intrinsic value, right? So, by biocentric ethics, you might say that it is a bad thing. By ecocentric ethics, hunting deer, you might say it's a good thing because yes, you killed an individual deer, but something has to keep that population down because when the population is too high, then you have a bunch of other problems in the ecosystem. So does anybody have any questions about those different ethical points of view there?
No.
All right.
Negative.
All right, good. So yeah, it's really that simple. Hold on here. Let me see what that is. Somebody's chiming in here. Let me go see what that is. While I'm looking in, I guess the second word. There we go. We got the new person in, I think, or at least should be soon. Anyway, the second word for anybody watching the video, as opposed to you guys who are here right now, the second word will be, I don't know, let's say deer, since we were just talking about deer hunting. So, Madison, sorry you came in late. I kind of covered everything in a really brief way. So, do you have any questions now that you're here? Do you have any specific questions, like anything I can clear up for you?
No, I just wanted like a breakdown. I guess.
Okay. Well then, let me see. So I'll come back to you then. I'll finish what I started with the other three, and then after that, if they want, obviously they can just get off. Of course, any of you can get off at any time you want, but I'll go ahead and finish what I was saying to them, and then I'll kind of backtrack and tell you what you missed. So again, those are the different ethical points of view. Make sure you understand them. That's the purpose of this discussion, is for you to demonstrate that you understand it. I don't really care if you think coal is good or bad. That doesn't matter to me. And you don't truly need to defend using it or defend not using it. What you want to do is demonstrate that you understand these ethical points of view. And I can tell you the biggest problem I see historically is this part right here. You have to properly use a reference. Every fact in your paper needs to be backed up with a reference, and every paper has to have a reference other than your textbook. And you can click this link and read it, and it'll tell you in great detail exactly how you need to use references. But basically, again, just make sure you're using references. Make sure it's obvious how you used your reference, and make sure you don't copy, right? Don't plagiarize. Don't reword things. Make sure everything is in your own words, your own thoughts, and every single fact in your paper is backed up with a source. So that's the basics. So for those four of you who are already here, I guess I'm done with you, unless you have any specific questions. And if not, then like I said, you can just get off if you want. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of backtrack and basically say what I already said, but tell it to the person who came in later. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Great, good. I love
Is there
questions.
like, you want like a word limit, or just fully answer and however many that would be?
That's a great question. No, generally, no. There is no limit. It's
Or
really
like
hard.
goal or whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no goal, no limit, no minimum, no maximum. It's hard to explain, and you'll kind of learn it as we go through. after you post something, I might leave a comment and say, you can tell when someone's just doing just throwing anything down there. Like, let me just write something for the sake of writing something. So on one hand, I don't want you to do that, but on the other hand, I don't want you to waste your time writing and my time reading, and you just write this whole long novel, right? So it's hard to say. It's hard to give you great advice on here. I'm trying to tell you to hit the sweet spot, but I can't really explain the sweet spot. So just write what you're going to write, and I'll leave comments. And if it is a little bit short, I'll probably leave a private comment that no one else can read and say, hey, you might want to add a little bit more to this. Or if you've done it just right, or maybe if it's a little bit long, even I'll post a public comment so everyone else can read and see that what you wrote and be like, okay, so that's kind of what I'm shooting for. That's the length I'm shooting for. So we guys, you can all learn from each other. So brings up another good point. Should have mentioned it earlier. I know this is not always feasible, but if you have the time and the chance to do it, I always recommend reading through the posts. No one's done one yet, but read through and see what your classmates have done and see what kind of comments I've left for them, and learn from their mistakes or from their successes. So great question. Did that clear it up though, as best as I could? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Another thing, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want, because again, you can just, you've got all the important information. You can get off the call anytime you want. But does anybody want to go ahead and tell me what you're thinking? Like, what, before you write it, and not just on this meeting, but anytime throughout the semester, if you want to meet with me and say, look, here's what I'm thinking about writing, just give me the basics about what you think you want to write, and I can give you a little bit of verbal feedback before you even spend time typing it out. Does anybody want to do that while I have you here? And it's okay if you don't. Doesn't sound like anyone does. Okay. So yeah, that's it then. So if those of you guys who are already here don't have any other questions, then I'm going to backtrack and re-explain the things that I explained earlier to Madison. So no other questions?
Nah.
Okay. All right. So the last word for the people who are watching the video and who are not here live, well, I guess I shouldn't say the last word, but the next word then is going to be box, right? Like something that you pack something in a box. So that's it for you guys. Madison, I guess I'll backtrack and say what I've already said, basically. Before I do that, Madison, or I think you already answered this, but you don't have any specific questions, right? You just want me to just generally explain. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, the question that you're answering is, should we continue to use coal? And actually, I'm thinking about rewording that. Like I said earlier in the video, probably a better question is it the right thing to do to use coal, right? Whether it be for energy production or for whatever reason, is it the right thing to do to use coal? Now, the question itself isn't really that important. Like I was saying, I think you may have heard that. Like, I don't care what your opinion is. I don't care if you think we should use coal or you think we shouldn't use coal. There is no right or wrong answer, because in all honesty, there's pros of using coal and there's cons, right? So this isn't really about coal. This question is just some way for you to demonstrate that you understand these ethical points of view. So when you write your first post, you're going to choose from one of these ethical points of view, right? Virtue ethics, consequence-based ethics, utilitarianism, or duty-based ethics. And you can find all that on page 38 of your textbook. It's also right here in the good grief. Sorry, I'm distracted. I'm at home. It's here in the PowerPoint. But these three, virtue ethics emphasizes the importance of intentions as opposed to outcomes. And I'll just use the same example that I'm going to stop recording because I'm repeating myself. And anybody watching the video, there's no need for them to sit through this again. Okay,